never have HDR on. I've spoke about this another time too. I have a passion. I hate HDR. It just wrecks the actual colouring and it doesn't look nice. Yes,
Straight away,
agreed.
do not get tempted to just go on clip and click upload and just upload and forget about it. Don't do that.
People do
please.
that. Don't do that. Yeah.
Just watch it, because most of the time I feel like if we got a penny for every time we mentioned this, but if you do not remove the CapCut ending of your videos, like,
it also tricks your brain a bit, right? Because you can't really see the exactly. So you're just like, you don't really pay attention to the fact that, you know, you are in this position and now you're in this position.
All right, girls, so today I wanted to talk to you about editing. I feel like obviously within UGC, this is something all of us do so much, but I feel like also a lot of people don't always realise that like there's little things you can do in your pre-editing, the editing part, and obviously the post-production of it. So I thought that would be a really nice one to get into. So first of all, Nicola, I wanted to kind of ask you, when it comes to actually pre-filming in that initial stage when you're doing a UGC campaign, what's kind of a couple of things that you would like look at making sure is right?
So this is a really good question. And I feel like most of the time when we review clips, it's genuinely towards the editing, not even the clips themselves. But I think the biggest mistake that people make when they set themselves up for editing is while they're editing, they're hoping for the best. They're like, this clip, I can edit that. It's fine. It's going to be fine. Please do not do that. You're just setting yourself up for a failure or like a mediocre video instead of like a greatness that you can create. So what I would say is whenever you literally have a feeling like, oh, I made a little stop there when I was speaking, or I don't know, the kind of got a bit blurry or anything like that, just reshoot that little scene. The amount of time that you can save by actually reshooting that. So yes, you do feel like you're wasting time because you're redoing the thing, but actually it's going to save you so much more time in the post-production part of that when you're actually editing. So that would be my number one thing. So whenever you feel like you're going to get away with it, just reshoot it. There's so much more. I feel like also obviously prepping your station to have it as clear as possible. Unfortunately, video editing is very different than photo editing, where you can just remove something from the background. It's not as easy, so just be mindful of that. And then obviously your camera settings. So I think, Ali, you did mention last time you had some really good advice on the camera settings for how to set yourself up for success with editing.
Yes, so I would always say when it comes to this that always have straight away, well, first off the bat, clean your lens. Like the amount of times I will say to people, you need to make sure you're cleaning your lens, because as you may think that it is clean, 9 times out of 10 it's not, and it's actually crazy how dirty it gets. So like if you're looking at a video, how to know if it wasn't clean? Because even if I see UGC ads, I'm like, they had a dirty lens, there's like a weird glow or glare over it that I'm like, it's not clear. Always clean your lens, but onto the actual settings and things too, always make sure you've got it set to that HD and 60 frames per second. Never have HDR on. I've spoke about this another time too. I have a passion. I hate HDR. It just wrecks the actual colouring and it doesn't look nice. And even for editing too, it just doesn't work either. And then obviously as well, turn on your grid view and have your actual stabilized view, I think it's called, or no, the level, view. That'll just make sure your frames and all are actually centered, because you always want to make sure that when you're getting shots that they're actually in the frame correctly. And kind of backing up what you said there again, Nicola, is the fact that don't ever do thing half-assed. Like you can see the difference in a half-assed video and a well thought out video. So if you're getting a shot and you're like, I'm not just too happy with that, be a perfectionist. This is the one industry where you will do better if you are that perfectionist. So like, do it again, do that take, and you know it will look better. And then when it comes to editing too, you'll know in your heart, you're like, yeah, I did try my best for that. Yeah, they will be happy. Because for brands too, like people aren't stupid. They can tell if like you've put a lot of effort into it or if you've rushed it. And I feel like sometimes too, creators, they forget that it is quite obvious to see from like video to video. So those are my kind of things for the pre-edit. And also to always have a clean background. I personally like doing a test shot. I will literally talk like random words or whatever to make sure, number one, audio is fine. Number two, am I actually happy with the background? Because as you said again, you can't edit it after, and there's nothing worse being like, crap, if I had just moved that stupid bin out of the way, it would look so much better. But you didn't.
Yeah, exactly. Also, yesterday when I was reviewing clips, I gave feedback that I thought was going to be useful for this as well, is when you're filming, always record little extra scenes that you think you're going to need. So don't just record the strict scenes of what you planned for the video. Always have those 3-4 B-roll shots that are just your extras, because then what you're going to find is when you're editing and you're trying to hit that 30, 60 seconds, especially for 60 second videos, always record more than you think you're going to need, because you're always going to find yourself like, damn it, now I have to get out of the editing mindset and shoot some extra clips to finish it. So I would recommend to always have little extra clips for you to fill those weird gaps as well. Because what you want in the editing process is for your audio and your visual to always match. If there is like a little moment when you have those like spare, even if it is like half a second or a second spare, where you just feel like the next scene just wouldn't make sense yet, just have a little background shot, just have some of that B-roll there. So that would be another thing that I think would save you time, even though it seems like a waste of time. It would actually at the end save you time.
Just to add on to that as well, I feel like too people don't always understand like the difference in A-roll and B-roll content. So like even just to give like a quick little breakdown, I feel like A-roll is your main storyline. This is the face of the camera talking, the actual audio. So if you think about, for example, a movie and you are talking in that movie, the actor's talking in that movie and they're talking about a story, and then all of a sudden they have flashbacks to like a memory. That's B-roll. That's linking to the story, but giving you extra context. So if you're thinking then in terms of UGC videos, you will have your A-roll, which is like me actively doing something and saying, for example, what have I got beside me? Right, I'm going to literally pick this up.
This is not a sponsor.
Sorry, I will cover it. We just have a generic this. If I'm talking about this and I'm on about like I used to have my clothes used to stink, I would be putting that in a B-roll video of me smelling clothes and it stunk. It doesn't relate to this, but it's relating to the story, and then it's giving that extra context. So then when people are watching it, it's more interesting, because I think too, always change your scenes every 2 to 3 seconds. So as Nicola said, having that extra B-roll, it links in really nicely to go from scene to scene, but also keep the user engaged because they're going to be watching it. So always do that. Also too, going on to that, I've always said it in so many review videos, when you're filming, give yourself a second at the start and a second at the end to do nothing. Always after you're finished speaking, just smile for a second, or like give yourself that, because then when it comes to editing, you can simply chop that off, put them together, and it flows so much nicer, because there's nothing worse than like a really choppy feeling video that's like rushed, because that pitting is just really jarring. It really puts me off, and I'm sure it puts other people off as well.
Yep.
Yeah. Or even don't pause the video when you are looking at the script and, remembering it. Just keep going with that video, and then it's going to be even easier for you, because you're going to have that same kind of spacing and the same placement for yourself, rather than making those movements that just look very, very specifically in that moment. You'd know what's happening. I could not agree more. Yeah. I feel like for people too, like I'll always tell people, even if like it's out in people or content days or whatever, and people chat, and I'll always say like, even if you mess up, keep going, because a lot of the time people are like, oh, I messed up, start again. If you mess up a word or you mess up what you're saying, just pause, say it again, and then you can edit that out. And once again, like Nicola said, you're not moving your shot frame, and it's not completely then choppy looking when you go to edit it. Plus at the end of the day, it saves you time too, because you're still in that mindset. You remember that sentence. It's like, you know how long it takes to refocus on a task when you stop and pause, right? It's like, I feel like when I was at school, they said that it takes you like a good 3 minutes to like refocus every time you get distracted. So then imagine that, like, if you think about it, it could potentially actually stop you from recording that scene when you are distracting yourself with all those unnecessary movements. You could have done it so much easier and so much quicker if you just restarted yourself and then
no, that's a great one. Definitely agree in that.
Oh, Maria.
Sorry. I just have a question. What does B stand for in B-roll and A from A-roll? It doesn't have any relation.
B is for the background, right? Background.
Yeah, let me Google that to see, because I don't actually know. I've just always known it as A-roll and B-roll.
And then A-roll, yeah.
Maybe it is just like the A is the first and then the B is the second.
Yeah, the secondary.
Maybe it is like that.
It's just the order of the letters in the alphabet.
I feel like sometimes it's like in marketing jargon. Yeah. So sometimes in the marketing jargon, you would use words for so long that you actually lose the track of the meaning. It's just a word. It's like, you're a girl, you're a boy. How do I explain this? Like, you just are.
I'm just curious to know, because actually, Stefan asked me once about the A-roll and B-roll, because I knew about B-roll and I didn't know about A-roll. And I was like, is that a thing as well? And I was just like, trying to understand what's the difference between. But I've never like asked the question of like, why is it called A and why is it called B,
I did try to Google what A stands for, but I was thinking maybe it's an action, but literally it says here it originates from early days of film when editors inserted supplemental B-roll into the main footage or the A-roll. So it is just A and B, like 1 and 2
So it is
kind of
just
thing.
a name.
So just the order of the, okay.
Yeah.
Just the order of it, yeah.
But it's an interesting look. We are learning every day.
Yeah, because I didn't like when I first started, someone said to me, I was like, what are you on about? What's B-roll? And then like you just end up figuring out the lingo and then you forget. And then obviously other people don't know what you're on about. And then you have to like bring it back to like, oh wait, it just means extra footage.
Yeah, exactly. This is the thing. It's like when you're watching a series and there's like an action. And then in between is those like annoying couple of scenes that are so useless. Like they're showing a park or like a restaurant. And it's like to change the setting of the action.
Yeah.
And you're there like, well, I just wasted 30 seconds of my life, but okay, but it was pretty. So that's a little bit like that when it's just like you need a filler basically for those couple of seconds, or when it simply is to show the context. So there's two roles that a B-roll can solve, right? Because it could be just creating B-roll of the product in different settings or different lightings, different perspectives, so it doesn't look samey. But it also could, Ali, you gave the example of you sniffing the clothes. That is treated as a B-roll as well, but that actually gives context to what you're saying. So there's two roles, which is very interesting.
Yeah, I'd say too, you kind of touched on it before, but just to really touch on it for creators too, make your life easier. For example, whatever you're saying in your script, link that to actual shots of it. So like once if you're saying somewhere in the script, like even in the hook at the start, like my clothes used to always stink, but since I got this, I know it's very like Anzi hook or whatever.
Yeah.
Some people would just do one shot and they'd be like, my clothes used to stink, but now I have this. I'm like, no, show it. So like every time that you're using an adjective or something that could be visibly shown, that's a B-roll clip. So when you're going through your script, that's why I always say when it comes to script writing, because I always like to do it before actually filming, is when you're getting your shots, then link it up each script bit with a shot. So like for this, I'm saying this, what's going to go with that? And then it makes, when it comes to filming, especially if you've got a lot of filming to do, you just bang through that list and check it off and you know you've got all your shots and you're sorted.
100%. Couldn't agree more. It's either some videos you know that it's going to work better if you actually write the script first. Some videos that are a little bit more forgiving. You can get away with actually shooting and then recording as you go because it actually will make more sense. Because sometimes, I think Ali will agree with me, is like when you don't have enough context of the product or you don't have enough information or you don't really know what you want to say, let your intuition guide you to shoot those clips. And then once you're editing, sometimes it might happen that your words are going to actually flow as you're editing. So you see the clip and you see what would work because you're explaining what you see. So for example, for me, that's the way I shoot my perfume scent videos. Anything like that is I just allow the clips to tell me what I'm going to be talking about in the video. Because technically they're all samey, but the way you shoot is going to probably show you the vibe of the script, how it should be, if that makes sense.
And yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And I think it also makes it more authentic, right? Especially if you're talking about perfumes, right? Because you're just like trying it on that spot. You're just smelling it. Oh my God, this smells like this and like this. Whereas if you already tried the perfume before, maybe you did, but it's very hard to replicate the same emotion that you had when you first tried it. And it goes the same for anything that smells, right? Or tastes. For example. So I think that is a good like advice to begin with, just because it makes it even more real and authentic. So it gives you that natural feeling of, the emotion of the person.
Unfortunately, I think it shows you that there's no one size fit all formula for all the videos. But as you go, I feel like you just learn what works for you, but also what works for the specific brand, for the specific product, for the niche as well. Like some of them, you know that you have to have that script nailed before. And there's just no other way to go. That you can't. So I feel like it's very important to give yourself that space to figure it out yourself, but also just be open-minded. Like do not stick to one thing that you think works, because there might be 10 different things that would work for you for different niches as well.
Sure. Anything else on the before editing?
I think that's pretty much it. We talked about the settings, we talked about the background, the phone settings as well, then the importance of the B-roll too. So I feel like we've covered the pre-editing. So now, Ali, imagine you've got all the clips shot, you've got your voiceover recorded, or perhaps you're doing it while you edit. How does your process look like then?
Before that, I have a question. Sorry.
Yeah,
It's
go
popped in
ahead.
my mind now, and I think it might be relevant. How many shots you should have in general to make sure that you are covered before you start editing? Depends on so many factors, like duration of the video and, style and everything. But I don't know, on average, or something that might have some context for the creators.
I don't know. I never count up how many shots I get. I just do it until I feel like it's like a gut feeling. Like, okay, I've got that, and then I'll move on to the next shot. But I think for me, I'll always have a rough plan in my head. Depending on the video too, because I feel like too initially it differs if you're doing a face to camera video or if it's a fully voiceover video. Because fully voiceover video, then I will do my voiceover first, and then depending on that, I'll have my shots of how many I need. So like, I won't lie though, sometimes you could be talking like 50, 60 up to 100. Like it could, like these aren't long videos, these are just like clips. So
yeah, of course.
It does depend. But what do you think, Nicola?
I think you kind of mentioned like a number formula at the beginning is to change your shot every 2-3 seconds. So if you focus on that, and obviously that could not work for a testimonial unless you're mixing your testimonial with B-roll as well, which I personally love doing in my videos. I love it when it's testimonial, but then every now and then there's just like this beautiful break of the, when the voice just hits and it's just like, and then you just put your B-roll, you extract the audio, and then you keep going, which I think is very important as well. We can touch upon that when we talk about editing later on. But I feel like depending on that, I would say just record so you have enough of those 2-3 seconds clips for the duration of the video. So for example, if you're doing a 30-second video, you would need like 10-12 clips, longer clips, but then you need to remember that each of those clips needs to be beautiful enough for those 2-3 seconds to hold your story, right? So just keep that in mind. But that's what I would say. So even if you're doing a voiceover, I would still have those 10-12 B-roll clips to be able to play around with.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Right. So we covered everything to do with the pre-editing. So all before you're shooting and then throughout your shooting. So I'll be very interested to know, Ali, your process of you've got all the footage, you've got your script or your voiceover, depending on, that's again another question, how you work that out. How does that process look for you, the editing?
Okay, so for editing, basically, well, it kind of differs once again between voiceover videos and then face to camera videos. Basically what I will do, I've got all my clips, I will add, if it's a voiceover video, I'll do it first actually. So if I have a voiceover video, I will then do the voiceover first. So in CapCut, I'll just put a blank dud clip in. I will then do my voiceover. And then I will literally run across and line up my shots to exactly what I was saying so it flows nicely. That I always say is probably like sometimes, well, both of them are easy, but it's nearly easier to do because you have your voiceover, and then even when you're taking shots, you know exactly what you need to get. Whereas if I was doing a face to camera one, once again, I typically tend to do my face to camera shots all in one setting, if that makes sense. So I will, for example, do my entire face to camera voiceover, just person preference. I used to do it in different areas and I don't all the time, sometimes I do. But I think the audio sounds so much better when you are just in the same location. You've no different variations between it. So I'll get my script and then I'll use the shit out of layovers and literally put those layovers up and down in front of it as well to like slot them all in. If, for example, then is a face to camera video, but I'm having to do different locations for different talking parts, I will line those up too just to have it. And then once again, I've got my track for the voiceover and then the clips on top. But what way do you do it? Because that's the way I've always thought, because then I have my like easy roadmap, I guess, for editing. But I know not everyone does it that way, so I'm interested to see what way you do it.
No, works the exact same. It's actually quite scary in both scenarios. So if it is a voiceover video, I would usually have the voiceover, unless, as I said before, the clips show you the way to write your script. So sometimes I do go a little bit like unhinged, and I'm just like, sometimes I don't even write a script. Sometimes I just say stuff.
No, fair play.
Do you know, I feel like it's the
very start.
I feel like it's the Pisces in me. Sometimes I'm just like, let's just get creative. Let's just go.
Like a structured girly, I'm like, no, I've got my plan. I know what I'm doing. I know the vision. But I used to do that at the start. But then I just feel like, well, I don't know. I feel like I might test it out now to try it. But I feel like it would just take me so much longer to do it that way that I need to have my wee, what am I saying? What am I doing? Bish bosh done. In my mind, because sometimes I feel like I'd be like, no, I'm babbling on about something that I need a script to keep me concise and get the key points through as well. Because sometimes time constraints too. Like if you're trying to do a 15-second video and you have a lot to fit in, you're like, shit, I said,
oh no, you have to have a script then. I feel like sometimes it's just like things like, again, the perfume or jewelry. It's just like, how much script do you actually need? Sometimes it would actually feel more authentic and natural if you just spoke your mind. Like, what do you actually like about these products? Right? So sometimes it just works for me, but I need to be in the right mood. I need to be in, like, I'm a vlogger now. This is just my personality. So it just very depends.
Yeah.
Most of the time, I do need my script. I do need my lists. I love those things. But every now and then, I just get that itch, you know? Let's just do it.
That you want to.
But it's a very, very rare occasion.
Yeah, I feel like too, it's so important when you're saying even there about voiceovers. If you're doing a voiceover, I don't know if you do this too, but I will always read that voiceover out loud, number one, to myself, as if I was sending it to a friend. And I feel like that's a really smart way of just making sure, is it actually authentic sounding? Whereas if you're like, would I actually say this to a friend? Then it's not. And like obviously some videos they want it more salesy and structured, but for those authentic, organic feeling ads, I feel like reading it out loud so it actually sounds right. And also to read it out loud in your natural tone of voice and time yourself to make sure you're actually getting the right length. Because a lot of times that I will constantly give feedback for people too. I'll be like, write your script, number one, listen to it back and make sure it's within the time frame. If you need to add extra to that, do that then. Don't do it at the end when you're editing and you're like, shit, it's far too short and you've nothing you can do then apart from going back and doing a full re-edit. So save yourself time, make sure you got that at the right length, and then you will be good to go.
Work smarter, not harder.
Exactly.
That's it.
But no, for me,
UGC motto.
I'm just thinking, yeah, literally it is though. I'm just thinking too in terms of editing stuff, like my only other thing I would say is about, I think I've mentioned in another podcast too, utilize Adobe Podcaster, or we said Maria does it also about the background audio. If you're doing shots and audio in different locations, always make sure that audio is seamless frame to frame, because there's nothing worse than a really loud audio, loads of background noise, because it will make your content sound so much better. And on the note of audio too, always mute your layovers. The amount of people that do not mute their layovers and you just hear random shit in the background, mute them.
Gosh, yeah. Like, it's such a simple thing, but
yeah.
But
no,
sometimes
it's mad
we're just
actually
deaf
so
to
many
it.
people don't. Yeah.
Sometimes when you do it for long enough, you become deaf to it, or like you become blind to it. You just kind of go and just keep going, and you don't see it until someone else tells you. So this is why it's so important to then keep looking back at it.
Rewatch.
Yeah, definitely. But what I would say, other than the editing, I feel like there are specific things that I would like to also address with specific tools that we can use, right? So obviously, probably the biggest one right now and probably will be forever is the green screen tool, right? So I feel like there's loads of tips and tricks to actually talk about just about green screen too. You know, it's like when you, in general, when you want to start, maybe not that much information, but it's like when you just want to start a green screen, you need to also remember how to film yourself before you even go there, right? So first of all, you want your background to be as plain as possible. So the automatic background remover is going to work for you the best as it can. So then you don't have to, also try to move as little as possible. You can point at things, but make sure that you're not doing any sort of random movements. And also don't hold the product if you're showing it in the background, right? It is just a bit too much things going on. So these would be the three things that I would say when you're actually recording yourself for green screen. And then obviously
if I could add one more onto your list as well, always make sure too that you're far enough away that you've not cut off shoulders or bits of your body. Because sometimes depending, and this comes into editing too, if you recorded it a certain way, I'm like, done, be grand. And then it comes to edit, you're like, shit, I've cut off the entire side of myself here, but I need this clip down here so I don't block the screen. You need to be smart about that too. So always center back far enough that you can do that, because you can always zoom in. So you got to think too, like, okay, it might feel too far, but you can zoom, you can edit, it's fine.
Yeah,
sorry, Nicola,
definitely.
I just wanted to add that one.
No, but also a little trick as well is that if you do cut your arm off, unfortunately, and you're like, damn it, I need this video on the right side, use the mirror tool as well. Mirror yourself. So you can sometimes stretch it a little bit, but I agree 100%, Ali, you should probably just keep your shoulders both in the frame. So that's that. And then obviously with the recording of the background, please just make sure that it's always relevant to what you're saying, that it's not just a random part of the website. So when you're talking about 5-star ratings, please show the 5-star ratings. Don't show the menu of the restaurant, or like, it just, because it happens all the time. Green screen, I feel like it is used a lot, but it's not used very smartly quite often. So we just use it because we're just like boom, 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 but just really focus
the
on
brand wants
green screen is actually
it,
two times harder, because green screen is actually 2 times harder, because you need to have 2 points of focus at the same time correlating together, your body language with what you're saying as well. So it's a lot going on when you're doing that. So the background, and also make sure that the frame is actually extended so it fills your screen as well, so you don't have those two black strips on the sides.
That's something in general too for layovers, always, because this is more, I think, specific to do with CapCut, because they don't put it at the actual edges. You have to make that. Always double check that you've put the layover, because once again too, it just completely, it messes up a video if you're watching like this is amazing, and all of a sudden it just chops out. You're like, no, such a wee thing, but it makes such a difference. Also too, one last thing to add to like your green screen point is, don't use TikTok. And the reason why I'm saying this is, I used to use TikTok to do my green screens. It is awful. Yeah, like at the very, very start. At the very start, I don't even know if it was a feature back then on CapCut, or maybe it wasn't. I didn't know about it, because I have had a few times people message and asking like, how do I actually even do a green screen? It's on CapCut as remove background. So obviously in TikTok, it's literally green screen. Remove background is what it is on CapCut, and you would add your actual clip of you as a person. You would remove that background and add it as the overlay rather than the actual website, if that makes sense, because it's going over it. But don't use TikTok like I used to do, because number one, it is shit quality, and number two, it's so much harder when it comes to editing to try and get because basically what I was doing, which is so stupid back in the day, this was me working harder, not smarter. I used to screen record. Have to edit my screen recording into like a wee snippet, which would actually like have the points together, then go on to actual TikTok, upload it in the background, and then try to be like, oh crap, and do this. And if I was talking on top of it too, it was chaos. That like, don't be like me. Just, were you doing this? Thank God I'm the only one. Other people must have done this too.
It took, because I think I was doing it, not a long time ago, but probably 3 years ago, something like that, when I was trying to do like educational content for Social Cat. And I was just like, I need to create these like green screens because everyone is doing it on TikTok, And I was just like, okay, how do I do it? Where do I start? Well, it was hard, obviously. I was just like, okay, I need to understand how. But then the whole thing took me like half a day for a 20 or 30-second video, and then I saw it and I was just like, this is crap. This is so bad. Why did I win? Yeah, exactly. So I was doing the same thing, like shooting the thing, like screen recording, then putting back on TikTok, and then
that's why I think these talks are so important, because sometimes you don't know and you're just trying your best. You don't realize. And like literally the day I realized, holy shit, remove background in CapCut, I was like, I've wasted so much time doing this manually, and like it was stressful. But then I was like, okay, life saved. This is all good.
Yep.
I actually kind of want to try it now on TikTok. I've never done I wonder if they actually
Don't bother.
Maybe they made it better, easier. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it compresses the image. That just wasn't good.
In general, when it comes to anything to do other than posting, do not use TikTok. For shooting, a lot of people would actually shoot using TikTok. Do not do that. The quality oh gosh, what is it?
I was going to say the only time I would recommend TikTok is when, for example, it's an actual trending audio or it's like a voice thing and you have to really line that up. It is easier to do it within TikTok compared to outside it, because outside it you're having to, yes, you can extract that audio, put it in. Yes, you can film the clips. Yes, you can try and manipulate it. But it takes so much longer, whereas if you were just live doing it on TikTok. But once again, it comes back to, that's probably not UGC, that's more social media kind of like very low spec, that it's meant to look funny rather than better quality, if that makes sense.
But with that also, if you save the sound on your TikTok and then you go to sounds on CapCut, it's going to be in your saved sounds too. So you can then add it and edit it there with the edit. But obviously recording, it just makes it a nightmare.
It's so long.
I get that for organic content, but again, it's very trend oriented. But when it comes to actual UGC clips, just don't bother. The quality that you're losing is not worth it. And then you most likely are going to forget to save the video before you post it as well. And then you've got the watermark. It's just a nightmare. And then the sound, you know, the sounds also that we think is copyright free. TikTok is still very confusing when it comes to actually adding the sounds on the platform. On CapCut, you can actually find commercial sounds easily. With TikTok, it's a little bit more messier, I feel like. You know, what's original audio, what's not. It's the same with Instagram. Yeah. So when it comes to a lot of brands now in the briefs actually say, do not use TikTok to record. And I feel like that should be a little bit more of like a general knowledge around creators. Just use your camera. Do not use any sort of platforms like that, unless it's like the transcriptor, whatever it's called, when you're like reading out, when you have a very tough script. But that again also comes with challenges. So yeah, green screen. One last tiny thing with green screen, because there's a lot of issues with green screen. The actual placement of your overlay over the background. So for you to be able to see everything behind you is very important, but don't make yourself so tiny or don't make yourself so big that you cover everything. So both things, but also cut the clip of your overlay exactly to match the end of the background video. Because the floating little overlay that actually just gives me like
that I feel like that once again, like, you shouldn't use TikTok. That should be like a dead to rights thing that you should always do, is always line your clips up right, and like always get and zoom in as far as you need to go in CapCut so you can literally see the break, and then like wait for that wee like vibrate noise it does, that you can get it, because it's, once again, you might even miss it. And like, I suppose this might be us now moving on to like post-production as well. You might miss it when you're editing, but like you need to get that, because it does affect the overall look. If it's jittering or the overlays are on top of each other, then it doesn't give a flowing or good looking video then and everything.
Yeah. In general, your overlay should finish together with the scene finishes, right? So don't have yourself disappearing in the middle of the video, the clip that you have in the background. Just let your overlay finish exactly with that video. And I feel like the thing that I've learned is that if you actually manipulate the clip in the background, it's not going to let you align it perfectly. So what you actually need to do is to cut the overlay instead. Yeah. Because this is going to give you that little sound, that little kind of, I'm talking
you're all good. Yeah.
And then you're all good. And just make sure that this is like aligned through all your videos forever, please.
Yeah. I feel like on that point too that you said about align up for scenes, that's the thing too. If you're like, even within your script, always align up that when you finish the end of that sentence, that scene finished, and like new scene, new video, new clip, because that's also quite an easy way too. If you're like, how many clips or what do I need? You always want them to be lining up, because sometimes I used to do it myself, and like we're all been there, but when you watch your older videos and stuff too, and you're seeing that, okay, I spoke about this and showed this clip, but then I was talking about something else and I didn't show that until later down the line. Always have those like nice and like lined up too, I think is really important.
Yeah.
So on to your actual post-production then. Nicole,
one more thing. Ali, one more thing is I would also like to mention transitions in the editing process, right? Because I feel like they're cool and they like can make a mediocre video really engaging and interesting and kind of like dynamic. But I think it's a red flag of mine if there is two different transitions from each other in one video. So I would say if you do have like a one specific transition that you want to use, I've got one favorite one that I don't remember what it is, but it's like kind of like, it just kind of like the two screens kind of merge together. So it's very delicate, subtle, and then you can get away with using it multiple times throughout your video because it kind of gives that flow in my eyes. But I think it's a very personal taste situation here, because sometimes I like to mix them up a little bit, but do not have a transition between every video. I would say stay away from that. Because
what do you think too for brands? Because just when you're saying that came into my head, I've always like, I don't personally like seeing transitions in videos, but this is personal. Like I feel like sometimes it doesn't make it look as authentic, organic, because it's really too much. I don't know. So then I'll always, as you said there, if I'm going to use one, it'll usually be like, for example, if I'm showing out with the new and in with, or like old to new, or like before after, I might do a transition, but I very rarely use them. And that's not even down to like, I'm just thinking about it out loud here now. I'm like, I don't know why I do that, but I think it is that mindset of I don't ever want the video to look too edited because then it like looks obvious in ad. But it's a tricky one that too. Like yeah, it's a
I think
it's like a sweet spot you gotta get.
Exactly, because I feel like when actually I think psychologically it would be interesting to know how it works, because does that editing process actually make us think about the authenticity of that video? Because technically the UGC will be mostly posted by the brands again, right? So we kind of know that this is the content and the editing kind of molded together, like this is the authenticity, or is it like your authentic content that someone knows that the brand probably post-produced as well?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I don't know.
Very good point too, even with authenticity, because kind of what you're saying there, it's kind of brought to my mind too, is the fact that I could film really authentic looking clips and do an authentic look sounding voiceover, but if I edited it to be like so much shit popping up and like loads of transitions, like the editing is a big part as well of how
it's a big part.
Yeah, because you can really, and also tones of like how you edit, like if things are slow and like sped up, like for example too, just on the topic of giving feedback to people, I've said it even back to a few creators too, they'll speed up their videos or like speed up. For example, there was one I give back, it was a wellness brand, and it was like they wanted organic looking for them to use in their socials, and they wanted like a night in with me, so it was like wholesome, like taking a bath, journal and that kind of thing. And one of the creators, like they really sped up all the footage, that it wrecked the tone of voice. And I feel like this comes back to so important too in your editing, you got to think about that brand's identity. So for a wellness brand like that, it didn't fit, and the brand came back said like, oh, it doesn't really fit the vibe, it's too fast paced. So for example, the brand that would be that fast paced, fast cuts, like sped up, like with your transitions, sports, fitness, fast, like energy, for something that's going to be like that wellness, you want slow, like really classic clips. You want like nice, gives a different feeling. Yeah, it's calm. So like also too, when you're editing your video, think, how do I want the person viewing this to feel? Does this feel erratic or does this feel calm? And I know it sounds like so deep into psychology, but it generally comes back to like, how does something make you feel? Because selling is about feeling. So how do you feel when you watch something as well?
Definitely. 100%. But with the I just lost the train of thought. Maria, what were you gonna say?
Sorry.
You go. No. You go.
No, I was just thinking about your question, and I think for me personally, it's exactly like you said. Like it really depends on the brand's voice. Like have a look on their website, have a look on their Instagram. You know, like what are they trying to communicate over there? You know, most of the times, some of them they might not even put it in the Instagram. It might be hard to tell exactly. But if it's like Alice said, you know, like if it's like a wellness or something that is very slow, like, you know, you have to take it slow.
Just read the room.
Yeah, exactly. Read the room. Yeah. But it also, I think authenticity, it's also about the creator's choice of editing at the end of the day, right? Because if you are someone because we do have a lot of creators that are extremely good creators in terms of editing, right? They put a lot of shit in there,
amazing.
like yeah, right, like a lot of like effects, sound effects, and
professional as
professional,
well.
right? Yeah, editing, like literally professional editing. And we actually had a video that was very professional edited, like very professional edited, but it converted so many people. So many people.
Go.
So it doesn't really matter that it's really edited. It is also about, again, the vibe that you're trying to communicate to the audience according to your brand. So as we try to show that we're smart, we're a bit witty, but we're also like fun and, you know, easy to work with. So I think that was one of the greatest like videos, because it showed us perfectly how we want to portray ourselves as a brand. And it was very snappy. It was very like transitions, like, you know, sound effects, like a lot of these elements. And you might say, oh, but it's not really authentic, right? Because it's just too crafted.
But it comes back to the tone of voice, because I think that for a clip, like that matches, because it's shown like, look what we can do, and the only way to get that across is high energy. Whereas if it was a brand that, for example, it was like a wellness cup of hot chocolate at night, it's like moodier, slower vibes, like that wouldn't work as well. But I think that's a really
Imagine.
good, like, it doesn't. But then also, because even I, in my own content, sometimes it is tough getting that balance, I find, because sometimes brands want something to be super authentic, that it's like, I just took this literally for my friends, and all the time they want that clean, polished, like editorial more look, that it is more that I nearly feel like UGC sometimes cuts into two, that there's that authentic looking style of content, but it's really high quality, really, and then there's the actual, like really authentic, like so unedited, unnatural, that it's just
like just marketing. Give us a review, basically.
Yeah, and like I'd actually love to like go into deeper and think about, what. Because for me too, like I always want to think, right, what fits the brand perfectly. But then I think it comes back to, as you said, Maria, it does depend sometimes on the creator, like their natural style. Some people's natural style will be that like fast, high quality. And for example, if I want X video, I will go to that person. Whereas if I want this style, I will go to that person.
You would go to that person.
Sometimes too, it comes back to owning our own UGC style. And I know something I probably need to get better at too, because a lot of the time I'm like, okay, I'll try that. Whereas I kind of know my heart, like what my true style is as well. But there's a lot of different. It's a head frig.
And we can have a topic about this actually.
100%. The UGC style, like what's the balance between the style and flexibility?
Yeah,
kind of.
Yeah, I think that would be good to even ask the brand about that too. Like about
okay. Oh yeah, we can actually have a brand and ask them. Yeah,
that would be great. So to summarize the transition aspect, I was actually just going to say that I'm personally not a massive fan of transitions, but I started to embrace them a little bit more now. And what I realized is that they actually make my life a little bit easier sometimes. Because, when we discussed having a testimonial style video, and it does happen that you changed your position a little bit and it just looks odd. Then I feel like in moments like this, a very nice subtle transition, literally what it does is that there's no harsh, there's like a little bit softer transitioning into the next clip, which I feel like sometimes it just saves your ass. Basically.
Yeah, exactly. And it also tricks your brain a bit, right? Because you can't really see the... Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you're just like, you don't really pay attention to the fact that, you are in this position and now you're in this position. You don't care necessarily because you saw that transition and you're just like, oh, this is nice. The brain is like, oh, this is cute. And then you just continue following the video or, listening to the audio.
So sometimes they're very useful, but most of the time they're just a little bit icky. There's just too much.
Overdoing it, always ruins.
Find your balance.
One thing I would say too, even when you're saying that, if something happened and you do need to change, what I always love doing too is like the slightly zoomed in clip. So for example, like if you're like emphasizing a point, but you, for example, in the background, you're like, shit, I looked slightly different and it's going to jump. I always love just zooming it in a bit so it's that emphasized point, and then it goes back to your original clip that, yes, that was a different clip when you recorded it. It wasn't part of the same one, but it doesn't look like it was. So it's like another wee hack I would always do too. But have we got any more on the editing, or are we on to now post-production?
I think that is it.
Yeah. So for post-production, I don't think like there's too many here, but I feel like there's some like dead certs that you will always do. So Nicola, first of all, like what's your top ones, and then sure, I'll say mine. Or they're probably the same, let's be honest.
So the second I export it, I watched a video.
Yes.
Straight away. Agreed. Do not get tempted to just go on the clip and click upload and just upload and forget about it. Don't do that.
People do
please.
that. Don't do that. Yeah.
Just watch it, because most of the time I feel like if we got a penny for every time we mentioned this, but if you do not remove the CapCut ending of your videos, like I just don't know how many times. But I understand that we can slip. We can slip and we can export it with that background. But then for you not to catch it when you're watching it, that is unforgivable.
Yeah, it's one of those like things that like you need to have when you're doing this kind of or in this job as well. You need to have a really high level of like attention to detail, and you need to be checking that. I will say, because I always tell people too, go into your settings and flick that off. But I do know, because I was recently out with someone and they recently downloaded the app. I don't know where the frig that settings went to turn it off, but like we compared our CapCuts and like hers literally did not have the setting to turn it off. But always check that. And another one too in line with that, when you import or you put an audio into your clip for background music, always make sure you've snipped it at the end, because there's so many videos it'll be like them actually doing it. The video was 15 seconds long. No, it's a minute and a half. And like, why in your mindset you might just be like, you know what, that big a deal, the brand can crop it back. It comes back to like owning your craft and having like actual professionalism about it. And I feel like it's so important. Those tiny details will like then make you look so much more like structured and professional for it. The people will be like, they put a lot of time and effort. they check it, that they make sure there's no issues. Like they actually, I want to come back to them because I trust their work. Whereas if someone just uploads something or sends their brand, they've got the CapCut ending, or they don't have these wee tiny things, subconsciously already they're like, oh, they didn't really try, or like they aren't really that, you know, serious about this.
Yeah,
and I know
and
that
they
sounds,
won't.
they
Sorry.
won't say. They won't say.
They won't tell you. They will
But
just
they'll
think that.
it.
Which
And
is
I know
even
that
worse.
sounds,
Yeah.
I know it sounds like dramatized, like, oh, calm down, it's not that deep, but it does come back to, I feel like this industry is getting so competitive that you do need to really like have that attention to detail.
Twice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
step up your game.
Another thing too, I would say as well, is with your captions, because for a lot of people I'd say too, when you're adding captions, make sure it's within the safe zone. So I can't remember the link. I literally send it to like loads of creators because I'm always trying to tell people about it. But you can get templates that is a safe zone template that if you're not sure initially where you should put your text or where it's safe for, add an overlay and put that in to see. After some time, you won't have to do it for every video. You'll get to know like, okay, this is the bit I can't really put anything in. So I always say to people is text up, make it a tiny bit smaller. Don't have it too small though either, because if some people make it too tiny, it's nearly distracting because they're trying to read it and it takes away from the video. So just make it a tiny bit smaller. So yeah, just always have that in mind, I think. And then onto your caption too, like make sure captions you actually have the right words, because it will not be perfect.
Oh yeah.
You need to do that, going through attention to detail once again, check word for word, and also to make sure the brand name's right, because I done it once way back at the very start that I literally had a caption that I'd spelt I picked up the brand name wrong the whole way through, and I'd sent it to the brand, and you best believe I've never made the same mistake twice. I was like, that's so bad, because it's their brand.
This is the thing. As long as you learn from your mistake once, that's great. That's fine. You know, you can keep going and you're only going to get better. But the sooner you pick up those little things, like for example, to make your video even more like snatched and, you know, like finalized, when you cut that music at the end, maybe make a little fade at the end and at the beginning. Just those little finishing touches that just make the videos as a whole work better. There's no specific explanation why. It just does. It's more polished.
Yeah, it's definitely.
And again, it's to do with the editing, not the authenticity itself, but the editing side of it. If it's polished, then it's still an authentic video, but just kind of set up onto that next level.
I think that's such a good point, is like always have like think about your ending, because sometimes videos will end very abruptly and it's kind of like, wait, what? Whereas you want to have that natural ending to a video, because then it's like, once again comes back to, I think, psychology of like how you feel. And if you feel like something's jarring, just ended, you're like, what? And like people will then think about different things, or they'll subconsciously then have different perceptions for brands. That it sounds so deep, but it all generally does make such a difference, I think.
Sure, for sure. It's just these little things that people, I don't know, sometimes they forget, sometimes they don't even care about. But at the end of the day, this is your business card, you know? Like, you can have your portfolio, that's fine. You can send that, whatever, doesn't matter. But still, like your video, what you are sending to the brand, the final video, right? That's your business card. That's who you are. That's what you're representing, right? So think twice before, you know, sending a video with the CapCut at the end, sending a video with the background music going 2 minutes long, whatever. It happened to me, and I was updating the videos on the landing pages. I didn't watch the whole video. I didn't even realize it's a minute. Well, it was a bit of over a minute, you know, and I was just like, okay, maybe it's a 60-second video, you know, it's fine. And then we put it on the website. It wasn't in development yet. It was just
staging.
Staging. I think I was just running again through them just to make sure everything is fine. And then I click on this, and I'm just like watching it, and I left it there to like go. I was doing something else, and then at some point, just see a black screen, but then the music was on. And I was like,
damn it.
You know?
You still caught it then before it actually went.
Yeah, but exactly, because double checking can save your life. Like, imagine us like putting that video there. Like, it's just going to ruin your image. Like, you can't do that.
It does. Such small things, but I feel like it always comes back to just always double check. And like, we've all been there. Like, this is the thing. Like, we're not the best at it. Like, we all make mistakes. Like, we still do. But it's just these tiny things that I feel like. Also, too, I think it's not bad initially doing it, because everyone makes a mistake that you need to learn from it, and then you're like, okay, don't do that
Especially
again.
at the beginning, yeah.
You're learning, things happen, like, but I think it's just as you go on, because it's so important as well, like that relationship with a brand, to actually know, okay, I've done something, as you said there. I feel like you summed this episode up perfectly. In your business card, like, it really is.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like sometimes with things like that, you will learn that some things, just like when the CapCut exports the video for a little bit too long, you're like, then hold on a minute.
Something's not right.
And then you just cancel it. Let's just see it again. And then the video, it does last 5:20. And it's going on.
Yeah.
Just as long as when you start, or if you're where we are, or even if you're more pro than us, if you catch yourself before it goes to the client, then it doesn't count as a mistake in my eyes.
Yeah.
It's, you can still figure it out.
That was just our quality control stage.
Yeah, exactly. QC.
Girl, this is just you taking your boxes off. So, yes. And then when it lands to clients' inbox, they feel, that's what you want to achieve, is that they feel that they don't even have to watch that video, because they know it's going to be great.
The moment they open it, it goes 5 seconds, and the eye can definitely see when a video is good from the first 3 seconds, not even 5 seconds, to be honest,
Yeah.
And I'll be like, nailed it. This is such a good video, So this is how your brand, your client will react too. So just more attention. That's the thing. It doesn't have to be super professional. That's the thing, That's just so crazy. Yeah.
Be demure. Be mindful.
Thank you for saying that stupid word. Everywhere, then it's like demure.
I just never actually used it, never actually said it, so I thought I have to.
Like, now's the time.
Now's the time. I'm going
to get it in there before I end. Brilliant.
Thanks, girls.
So I think
my day has been done now.
Literally.
You can go sleep.
Really good episode, girls, and I hope for you guys listening too that you like took away some good value from that, because I know I have, even too, and like the different things that it's nice to know too that you're the same way as me, and we all have these wee things that we think about. But if you guys as well have anything is like in your mental checklist, maybe things that we haven't mentioned, please let us know. And of course, always feel free to send in any questions. We're always more than happy to answer these. And Jess, see you on the next episode.
See ya.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye.